Good morning. It's time to wake up. This is the Sunday Dinking Club, and I'm your host, Downtown Logan Brown. Today, we have a special guest joining the podcast, the youngest 5.0 pickleball player in history, Junior Mint, Jack Munro. All right, Jack, welcome to the pod, man. What have you been up to today? You been pickling?
Yeah, pickled twice this morning, came home, showered, and relaxing for the rest of the day.
Twice this morning? What's like your daily routine these days?
Try to wake up, play pickle, grab lunch, play some more pickle, maybe one session drilling, another playing, or vice versa, and then relax for the rest of the day, especially with New York ahead. I'm looking forward to it, and I kind of need to rest up.
And where are you now? I know you're a California guy, but are you in Texas now?
Yeah, moved to Austin I think exactly a year ago. So it's the city south of Austin. It's called Buda, but I just say Austin because nobody knows Buda.
I've been able to visit a couple of times and actually played it. What's that bar? It's like a pickleball bar that you post on Instagram. What's that spot called?
There's Bolden Acres, which that one's like an outdoor kind of patio, food truck, stuff like that. There's that one. There's obviously Dreamland. There's a couple others throughout, but I don't know the names.
No, that's cool. And are you drilling with really good players of your caliber, or just kind of going out with buddies? Like, what's the strategy these days?
Ideally, it would be like players of high caliber, but the thing is, they travel they fly out like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then come back Sunday. So they're gone for the most part. I mean, some weekends they're still here. But I mean, sometimes I try to get in with the pros, but for the most part, it's just working on, simple things here and there, dinking. I mean, one thing that stands out between that caliber and the people that I drill with is simply like hands battles. I mean, other than that, they still hit solid dinks. They still understand the game. It's just simply a bit quicker and harder.
Yeah. And I mean, you're traveling now too. I mean, you're going to New York tomorrow for the whole week. Mm-hmm. I mean, tell me about that. How often are you moving around and traveling? And then how is this week different because it's the New York Open?
So yeah, I got into New York last minute ever since I joined that team, or just got accepted into that team. So just got pushed last minute. And after that, I have Texas Open, and I'm just kind of blitzing it over the summer because now I'm pickleball full time because I'm like a full-time student with pickleball on the side. So now that there's no school, it's like, now I can just do pickleball all day.
Yeah, dude, totally. I'm jealous of you, by the way. I wish I could do that. But is that what brought you to Texas? Are you in school there, like college at UT or something?
Yeah, so my end goal was UT, and what brought me to Austin compared to some other colleges was the city and then the school inside of it, obviously. But I hear back from them in June, which is or mid-June, so 2-3 weeks from now, and then I just got accepted into Rice, so now I'm trying to figure out whether I should, pack things up in Austin and move to Houston or just wait to hear back from UT.
Yeah, sure. So you just finished up high school?
For freshman year of college. Yeah. So I go to Austin Community College right now, trying to get the in-state tuition so I don't pay like 50, 60 grand to go to UT.
Smart move, my man. Smart move.
Yeah.
I like that.
But definitely, pickleball was the best byproduct I could have asked for because I wasn't even thinking about pickleball much when I decided to pick Austin. And then, just connections, one thing led to another, and then bang, I'm into a good pickleball group in Austin. So the stars aligned.
It sounds like it. Mm-hmm. All right, so we have a lot to talk about though. So I want to see if I can guide this conversation because I don't think that people understand how cool you are and what your background is. So when I told you this before we got on, but I reached out to you because I just liked your content. And then I do some quick searching on you, and you were the youngest individual to get to a 5.0 level, right? You're like what, 14?
Yeah, it was October 2016. I think I still have the screenshot. So yeah, it was a while ago when if you do the math, I just turned 19, so 23 minus whatever. So if I could do math right, it was probably when I was
7 or 8 years
11.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. Okay. Yeah. So the story that I couldn't really get the full scope on, you stopped playing pickleball, right? Like you climbed the ranks, you started playing with like the best pros at that time, which I think like Kyle Yates was a big name, still is a big name, but he was like one of the bigger names. And then you decided like I'm done with it, and you moved on to another sport. Like what happened between pickleball then and now? Like what was the gap?
So pickleball was my sport in middle school. Like I did independent study. I was doing pickleball, traveling to tournaments, and then high school came around and decided to play high school basketball. It was kind of mutual between me and my parents, and obviously I think they wanted me to play a high school sport, and I agreed, and it was good because social skills, all of that stuff, like just like the reasons why you should go to college or stuff like that. But I mean, the power of hindsight comes back, and then it's like shit, like what I could have been. Like I could be Ben Johns right now, but I decided to play high school basketball, so it's either or. But I mean, you can't take back what was already done.
Nah, I mean, listen, I mean, you could still be Ben Johns. Yeah, actually, you're Jack Munro, and you're going to be your own Jack Munro, and it won't matter. I have all the faith in the world in you, man. But you bring up a good point. But at the same time, you could have gotten burnt out. Like you could have played, you could have become the best of the best, and then like you could have gotten burnt out and stopped altogether. It's like great that you're back in the sport, but how different? I don't think people understand because I don't even understand. I started playing like a year ago. How different was pickleball in 2016? Like, did
Yeah,
anyone even care? Like, what was going on back then?
yeah. So it was super tough to find facilities just to play in the first place. It was mostly temporary nets, and we were lucky enough to have some permanent, but that was just because like we knew people who were in like the school board, so they pushed towards that. But I mean, like back when Bobby Riggs, I don't know if you know Bobby Riggs, like back when they were
Yeah.
all tennis courts, and so like it was all temp nets on top of there, and it was just such a different game. I mean, in terms of play style in general, I mean, it was so much slower, and it was crazy the fact that people didn't attack the balls. Like I mean, I still have some film of me and of other people, and it's like they have hip high balls and they're just like dinking it back, and so it's so soft, especially when the Onyx Pure balls got introduced, like the Pure 2. And I mean, you couldn't put, it was like the Franklin on steroids, and it was such a different game. Like lobs, you just didn't speed up. It was just dink rally, dink rally, dink rally, and so that was the biggest difference. I mean, some of these balls were crazy that you'd put it back over the net when in reality now like it would get killed.
Wow. And you were telling me back in those days, you actually play with some big names now that were actually like, what would you say, Colin and Deckel? You actually kind of bumped into those guys or played with them maybe, and they were pretty low ranked players back then, right?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously both of them came from tennis, if I'm correct, but they were absolute dog shit at pickleball. I mean, I have memories of them dinking, and it was so bad. Like they looked so uncoordinated, and they like didn't even grip it correctly. And now watching them, especially taking 4 years off and not even thinking about pickleball and seeing them now, it's like respect to you. I mean, you've grown and gone like you've really done it. I mean,
A lot
kudos.
better.
Yeah.
And so, at what point did you pick it back up? Like, when did you say, I'm going to go put a paddle in my hand and go play with some buddies? Was that like last year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, so ever since high school basketball ended, so a year ago from now, I mean, it ended in, I mean, last February or March, so maybe a little more than a year. But ever since I moved to Austin, I truly started hitting consistently, like finding games and going out of my way to not even drill, but just to play rec and try to grow my skills in general.
So, as like a child prodigy of the sport, how shook were you when you came back and saw what it like had become? I mean, you probably picked up a paddle that had more pop than you were ever used to, and somebody was
Yes.
slamming it down your throat. It's like,
Yeah. Totally. So, I mean, it was when I came back and I started hitting like high loopy thirds, which was the thing back then. And then I was just getting killed for it. And then it's like what's up? Like we're still using the same ball. Like we're still using the Dura, which is
yeah,
crazy. Just I mean, just to go on a side note, but we're still using the Dura. It's just the game's changed to like you speed up 50-50 balls. Just I mean, put simply, obviously not every pro does that, but that's at least what more the game is now. And so I was just blown away by how fast it was, and I was getting rolled over and steamrolled by these guys that I used to beat originally. And at least when I came back and started playing in California, it was a complete different game. Then there's the APP, the PPA, and it's like, what is that? What's all this stuff? Like, why is there a 6-0 now? Like, what's duper? And so it's like all of this
Yeah.
is just shoved into my face. And I mean, I remember using the Engage Encore, the original Engage
Yep.
paddle, the Onyx, like the original Onyx paddles, and then Engage moved to the Elite Pro, which was like a step up from the Encore, and they even tried like a dual core thing called the Poach, but I remember playing with the Elite Pro, and that was what Ben played with, I think, in the US Open, like whether it was 2017, 2018. But that was like a game changer, and then coming back, and now there's like carbon fibers a thing, like what's all this stuff and why are you getting so much spin and hitting it even harder? So it was crazy.
That's wild, man. I appreciate the context though, because I look back on it now and I think just because I wasn't playing back then, I wonder what the vibe was there. There couldn't have been. I feel like in the last 2 years, I started watching it about a year and a half ago, and even then, some of the tournaments looked a little desolate. Like there weren't a ton of fans. It seemed like a lot of amateur players were out, but it wasn't like the pros were getting a ton of publicity. And now, after seeing MLP come up and the PPA rolling into 2023, it seems like it's really making moves. I mean, are you
Hmm.
seeing it like the fan engagement and the amount of people interested? Is it like way bigger than you ever expected back then?
Yeah. I mean, back then there wasn't much. It was mostly um the cliche old lady
Yeah.
watching younger people play pickleball. And so it was whatever, like at pro events there were just, you know, mostly old people just watching. And but now, I mean, you go to these events and they're like of all age, of all demographic, and it's like it's not an old person sport anymore. I'd say back then it kind of was, but I'm really glad that pickleball as a whole grew out of that stage because now, I mean, obviously I forgot who it was, but they put out the average age of like the high 30s. So I mean,
Mm,
that's really cool, and I really like seeing younger pros as well. Like obviously Tardio,
yep.
Patrick Lynn, even like Ben, Frazier, Ignatowicz, these guys that are in their young 20s take it seriously and just I mean, it's way better for the game.
Yeah, it's awesome. I saw Hayden play at the PPA in Charlotte, and I just didn't. I don't think I've ever seen that caliber of a like that young of a player that good at anything. Like I was kind of a skateboarder when I was growing up, so like maybe Ryan Sheckler, but I just like I equate these like young guys and how good they are at this sport to something like that. It's kind of mind blowing how hard he can hit the ball, and he's
Hmm.
kind of like a small dude, you know.
Yeah,
Like I know he's still growing.
yeah,
It's crazy. All right, so tell me about. Let's go back to the APP. Going to New York this week. Big news that you were. I guess you're in the second cohort of the APP Next Gen team. Is that right? Is this the
yeah.
second year they've done it?
It's I think it's their first. I don't know for sure,
Oh,
but I
okay, great. Well,
think it's
congrats.
yeah. Thank you.
Tell me what is it? What does it really mean? Did you have to apply? They picked you out. Like, what happens next?
So I think it was a board that handpicked 6 guys and 6 girls to be part of this team to basically they get I think 8 APPs covered throughout the year. For all three, all reg, all of that. We get a couple camps throughout the year, training camps. Hopefully with I think some pros, but certainly Adam Stone, which is going to be really cool because he's been in the game for a lot. So I really take his word like the
Yeah.
Bible. But so some
Hmm.
training camps,
Love it.
and then over the summer we're heading to the English Cup or the English Open. It's one of them, but which is super cool. I'm really looking forward to that, and obviously I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on the team.
Yeah, man. That I did see that as well. It's either the English Cup or English Open, and I was curious about that. The facility looks really big, looks pretty cool. I imagine they're going to do like pickle roll courts inside or something. But have you heard about the sport getting really popular in Europe or abroad in general?
Not abroad. I know in Australia there's a couple just because my friend who plays here is Australian, so he goes back and forth. But other than that, I've only seen clips on Instagram of how it's growing abroad, so I just have to take their clips.
Yeah, well, that'll be really interesting to see like what you guys like how good the Americans are when you all show up and but anyway, I think it'll be like a really fun experience. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
Totally.
And speaking of
Mhm.
MLP, are you? I actually saw your name first on TV watching minor league pickleball. I turned it on because I follow Pickleball Will, and you two were playing each other. He had like subbed in to one of the teams or something. I don't know if you remember playing him or know who he is, but
Did Will have the spin serve?
yeah. It was
Yeah.
before
Okay.
they outlawed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know if you call that the chainsaw that Zane had, but he
Mhm.
did a pretty harsh spin serve, and I think he spun it with his hand too. So
Yeah.
all that together, I remember it was moving quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember it took a couple points to figure out which way it was going, but it came out of nowhere. And obviously going into that game not knowing what a spin serve was, it was like, Jesus, like this ball is like it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot. You're in the minor league now. You're at the top. You're at the highest level, right? The 22. That's the highest you can go.
Yeah, so when I played in Austin, I was 20s, but um after like just hearing feedback from people, I should probably move up to 22s. So I think that's what we did. We may have done shoot, I don't know. I was asked last minute for Dallas, but it also may have been the 20s. But
Good.
but I think both times it was fun
Yeah, good.
because we had
But I
yeah.
mean, so what's like the next state? Like, how do you? I know that it's all draft based, but I'm sure you can like kind of work your way in somehow. What is there somehow a path for you, or do you care to try to get drafted to Challenger League?
Yeah, so I think I totally can be drafted to Challenger League, and I do think most of the drafts this should like this should probably be like cut out, but I think most of the
Okay.
drafts are I mean, but
Yeah.
we'll just leave that aside.
What is the strategy for you to get into Challenger League next? I think they just launched the Challenger League draft, so you'd have to do you have to wait until the second half of the season that's after San Clemente or all the way into 2024?
I think they do a redraft in the second half. I would need to confirm that, but I've heard rumors of that. And my goal in order to get drafted is to obviously just have some results. Like, I mean, I just started playing, like, I just started finding like super good partners. So I'm really, really looking forward to this summer. Um, and I think once I get enough results, then I'll definitely catch some eyeballs. I mean, like what I'm doing on social media, I'm already catching eyeballs, but I just like to be on top of their list. So, I mean, obviously, like I used to play with Sam, like back in TO, and he was like the number one
Mm.
draft pick, or like I mean, beating Philip first round. Like I mean, I definitely think that I definitely think I'm the caliber to be challenger, but obviously it comes just with time. So I'm probably just gonna dedicate this summer to just kind of eating my words and trying to get some results.
Good for you. I love
Yeah.
it. Good strategy. You want to get into some like fun pickleball newsy stuff, and we'll just like jam through it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
You've been in the game for a long time. You've seen this grow to an extent. You're currently playing APP, MILP. I don't know. Have you done any PPA events at this point?
Yeah, so I'm playing the Texas Open. I played it last year, but I'm playing it again this year and then San Clemente as well. I'm probably like 70-80% APPs with the rest being PPAs.
Yep. And so since you've seen the vibe of all of them, and clearly you were playing back before any of it existed, like what's your perspective on where you see things going? Let's just predict like 2 to 3 years from now. Like, do you foresee that all three can still sustain? Would you prefer that something change with the APP or PPA or MLP to like help with the growth of pickleball? Like anything there that you can share?
So this was super interesting, at least in my mind, just, kind of I forgot the word, but stretching it out 2 to 3 years in the future. So I think there's two routes which the APP and PPA can go, kind of putting MLP to the side right now, where one can either eat up the competition or the other, which is what we're seeing right now, or one becomes kind of like the minor leagues, like the G League to the NBA, or say the Nike Tour to the PGA, or something like that, where it kind of fills into the other and both have a specific role. And I think both could happen, but it'll be really interesting seeing where they're going, because I think PPA is obviously like I mean they're doing a lot right. I mean whatever they signed with Amazon, they're getting a lot of sponsors now, and money's starting to flood in. Same with the APP. I mean they're still doing super well. But I mean, eventually there won't be high enough talent on one of the tours. So whether that tour just becomes insolvent or actually just becomes like the filler to the one above it.
No, it's a good take. I mean, personally, I wish I would see more of the blend between the two. I feel like from a business perspective, I don't think the APP. I'm not sure if they would ever just like stop pushing and become the G League of sorts because I'm sure it's less lucrative. But I'm with you. I mean, when the PPA guys have these gold cards or whatever and they can't go play APP tournaments, I feel like the Johnson brothers are playing in every freaking finals. Like Hunter and Yates. It's like it's crazy, and I mean it's good, but at the same time, I feel like they don't have enough competition there for it to become interesting week in and week out. But I don't know if you have a different perspective.
No, I think you're totally right. Like, I mean, Diascu's definitely the standout in the APP, but other than that, I mean, the Johnson twins have been like not the babies, but the faces of the APP in terms of a young duo stud. But like the reason, I mean, they're still doing really well for themselves, and it's because sponsors don't really care about the tour. They just care about whether their face is always winning, you know? So since the Johnson twins are always winning, like they're still I mean,
Yeah, they're
just
relevant, and it's
yeah.
relevant for the sponsors, and yeah, I totally get it. It was just from a viewer standpoint, it was a breath of fresh air this weekend to see Andre and Paris play this PPA tournament, and they
Yes.
both did really well. It was a lot
Yes.
of fun.
Yes, especially seeing I'm pretty sure Andre beat McGuffin and Ignatovic, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was big. I was like, okay, like and especially with his new paddles. But I mean, what's annoying is that it's yellow, which we could go into a completely different,
Uh,
subtopic about that. But I mean, just when I played him in rec at Cincinnati, it's like you lose a split second because you can't see the ball off of his paddle with the yellow Dura.
I've heard them complaining about the same thing with these new white Invictas from Selkirk that have like some gold pattern to them. I think the one Tyson's playing with and James. So yeah, I saw that paddle on TV and I was like, what is he playing with? But I was like, whatever, something.
Yeah.
I feel like I try to keep up with all these paddle brands, but I think the latest I heard was there's like 150 brands on the market, so it's a bit difficult to always stay on top of.
hmm
What's the you gonna spill the beans on where Riley's going? I feel like you might know what he's doing. Did you see his announcement that he's leaving Gamma?
Oh yeah, I have no clue where he's gonna go. But whatever. I mean, odds are that contract's up and he's just looking for more.
Yeah.
And I mean, odds are he's not going to go. I mean, I'll just keep that to myself, but I think like I have no clue what he's going to do. But I mean, Engage has been signing a lot of players. I mean, Engage is trying to get a lot of like mid-tier pros. Like they got, I mean, they've got a lot of girls now. They got whatever Alex Truong. They're trying to buy the PPA like with the John or the APP, like with Alex Truong, the Johnson twins. They just got DJ as well. So they're certainly finally increasing their budget from zero with literally just Deckel and Jesse. So
Yep.
will they be able to? Will they be able to afford Riley? I have no clue. Odds are Selkirk has the pockets, but I couldn't imagine seeing Riley with the Selkirk paddle.
Well, yeah, I think the news or the rumor mill was saying that it won't be Selkirk because I think that he used to be Selkirk. I think someone was saying that he was like an OG Selkirk sponsored player and then moved to Gamma to be the face of Gamma. So I'm with you. I don't think he's going back. But is that news? Did you just break some news? Like DJ Young is going to engage? Is that
Yeah,
DJ?
yeah. I think he played in Atlanta with an Engage paddle. Yeah, he signed with
Oh, no
Engage.
way. I
Yeah.
thought he was kind of the poster boy for Carbon for a while. Is that right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I don't know. That's
Um,
cool.
yeah. No, I think he was. I mean, I didn't see him modeling for Carbon, but I mean, in terms of players, he's probably the top-notch Carbon player.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cool.
hmm
Yeah, interesting stuff going on.
hmm
All right, so next topic. I I in my last podcast, which I know you probably didn't watch, but go back and check it out later. I was really harping on this idea of like fan experiences. I'm like a marketing background, so I really like nerding out on these things. But across the sports landscapes, I feel like there are stadiums and pro teams and even um, like the Major League Baseball themselves, like these entities, do a pretty good job of creating pretty fun experiences to draw folks in who may not really be passionate pickleball players or fans, but like are ready to come and check it out and see what it's about. What do you think that these tournaments, especially with the APP, because you're going all the time, what could they do to help draw a younger crowd? Like, what would make your friends want to come besides seeing you play? Is there anything they could do to make this more fun and exciting for your demographic?
Yeah, so I mean, just first of all, just to put this in because I think it's funny, but like 6, 7 years ago when I started playing, pickleball was not like it was. I was the lowest bar in the friend group because I played pickleball and the name was pickleball. But now, ever since I got back into it after high school, they're like, "Oh, like you're playing pickleball now? Like I see it all over the place." Like, and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, like go ahead, hop on the bandwagon." But
Hmm. How the tables have turned.
But in terms of what the tours and specifically the APP can do in order to increase the whatever the engagement with the audience, even during timeouts and stuff, they have the DJ play music. Like, I mean, whatever they throw out some towels or stuff like that. They have the light up screens when an ATP's hit or whatever, anything like that, where it's kind of I think it's not more engaging, but at least it keeps their attention a bit more than just like say a tennis match or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's good, and especially if you think about most pro, or at least most pro sports, like whatever you buy, if you live in Denver and you just want to go watch the Nuggets play, like you'll buy a 50, $60 ticket, go buy a couple beers while you're there, and then just sit in the back and watch, and then whatever they have loud music, and then typically you're like talking or something like that. But I think the APP is doing a good job in terms of having younger people as the face of their tour. So, like, say the Johnson twins or Alex Truong or stuff like that, where if I were a younger person watching that, I think I would be more inclined to sit down and watch that rather than. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
big. And I'd like to hear your thoughts as well on what we could do.
Yeah, well, I'll hit on that in a second. The one thing that I don't have context into though is that I keep hearing that the MLP is like a really awesome event. But like, how would you compare an MLP event to what you've seen on the other tours? Like, is it that
So,
extra level? Like, is that great?
yeah. So, I mean, I've only been to minor league, but what I've heard like over and over, because these people just won't get over it, is how good MLP was. I mean, it was roaring.
Mm,
Like the audience was involved, especially since there were teams from different areas. I think that was a big thing where it's like you're actually supporting, like you have some patriotism in the Bay Area or in these different areas or in Miami or whatever, and they're actually rooting for their team and maybe rooting just for their best player. But MLP is certainly the peak in terms of that team aspect, and um, like with that team aspect comes just I'd say way more competition in terms of like screaming, like noisiness, rowdiness, stuff like that.
yeah.
So way more intense. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So throwing my ideas in the hat, what I'm well, actually, this is an idea that I didn't even bring up last week, but I'll bring up to you and see what you think. I think that there needs to be more almost like in-person experiences with these pros to build a rapport so that the fans have an interest in them, like in individuals. Because I think with the MLP, what is really cool is it's a team aspect, right? You've got four different players, and you might be a fan of any one of them, and so now you're a fan of their team. And I think with the individual tournaments, it's like tennis. If you don't know the names, then you're kind of like, I don't know, like I know Anna Lee Waters or Ben Johns, and you may turn it on or you may show up if it's in your town. I think you could potentially, if you were the APP or PPA, you could do less tournaments, but in between tournaments, you do marketing events with the pros. So imagine you're about to go to, now New York's a bad example, it's a massive city, but let's use something like Cincinnati. You know you're about to do a tournament in Cincinnati. Send like you and 10 of your top pros to go do like a week long of like clinics and like fun events with fans, like fan experiences, and make the fans pay for it so that you make money, they make money, and it helps promote the upcoming event. And so now it's like, oh my gosh, I stood on the same court as Jack Munro and he hit me balls while I drilled dinks or whatever. I think that that would create this like fandom around each of these pros and also put money in your pockets where the tournaments aren't always guaranteed. and it helps promote the sport, promote the players. That might be something interesting because I just think that we need to get like even more people out. I think we need to be able to fill a pretty good size arena in the near future to keep the momentum going. That's my
Hmm.
opinion.
No, I mean, I think you're spot
So
on with that. And I do think that these viewers need to realize that these players actually have a personality, or at least most of them, you know? So I think playing on the court with them, and I mean, I think that's what Zane's doing at the Texas Open, but I don't think it's like associated with the PPA. But I mean, just going out there, hitting balls with these guys, and just having them get to know you, get your vibe, and then, whatever, root for you once they see you on the big screen. And so, I mean, I don't know, say like these getaways or something like that, where it's like not associated with anything. I think
yep.
that's a prime example of that. These guys are making a shit ton of money, but they're also having like a great experience with these, not locals, but with these players, and they're just getting to know these pros. They're having dinner with them and all of this stuff, you know?
Yeah, I'm right on board. I want to go to one of those one day. It seems like a lot of fun. I need to like get out there. I've never actually gotten a lesson from anyone. I just watch stuff on YouTube and play.
Hmm.
So I'm sure I could use the help in one of these getaways.
Hmm.
But yeah, the pros that you're speaking of, like I think you're doing a great job on social. Callie Joe Smith does a great job, and Zane. I think that more of these. I know it's difficult. Like you're traveling somewhat. A lot of people have families, and you have school, right? There's a lot of things going on, but I think more of the pros need to be establishing a presence across the social channels, and I think it'll just help rise the tide of all ships and ensure that people know who they are and have someone to come root for.
Hmm.
Because even like someone like Connor Garnett, like I knew the name, but when he came up through, like when he got to semis, I was like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? I know I've seen his name on a draw, but I don't really know who he is. I'm not sure how much he does on social media, but he hasn't come up through my feed as naturally as some of these other folks. So
Hmm.
um, that's where I'd like to see folks like him like really establish a brand around
Yeah,
himself to kind
yeah,
of
totally.
push off this momentum.
Yeah. And so, um, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think in terms of building a brand, Tyson is obviously the best example of that. Like looking at him 7, 8 years
Yeah.
ago compared to now, it's like somebody behind the scenes probably told him like what he should do in order to establish a brand as this kind of guy. I mean, tattoos, mullet, just an absolute badass. And I mean, he's positioned himself perfectly. I mean, as a brand compared to say, I mean, I'm not dissing him at all, but like Riley Newman, come do you really know
Mhm.
how Riley Newman off the court is like? Do you know
Yeah.
anything like outside of his life and stuff like that? So like say people like that, like they just get followers because they're top five, but they should get followers because of what they're doing off the court because they have an actual brand. And I mean, Tyson's obviously the best example.
Yeah, dude, that's a great point. That's a really good point, and I'm right on par with that. Um, yeah, I love someone like Riley, but I'm with you. If they were creating the same kind of content, I might have this like even bigger fandom towards him because of the connection we've made even over social media or something.
Hmm.
But speaking of like brand, like tell me about Junior Mint. I know that's gone back a long, long way, but where did that start? And are you like all in on Junior Mint?
Yeah, so Junior Mint's my second name. I think I still have it on pickleball tournaments, so it's still like what shows up on the scorecard, which is hilarious because half the refs get it wrong. They're like, "Are you Mint or are you JR Mint or something?" It's like, "Yes, Junior Mint, Junior Mint." But how it started was at my first tournaments back when I was like 10 or 9 or whatever. I like my friends just gave me Junior Mints and I fell in love with it. So I just had junior mints at every tournament, and people realized I had junior mints, and they were like, "That's actually a great name for a young kid." So junior mint, and now I'm thinking about getting promoted to senior mint, but I think that's too early. I think that's way too early.
I think you got to keep the Junior Mint name, and that way you can get Junior Mint as a sponsor. Like you should be rocking Junior Mint stuff like everywhere.
That would be awesome.
I mean, you could like literally just be decked out with candy in your bag, just be handing out candy wherever you go. Here comes Junior Mint rolling through.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Have you outside of your nickname though? Have you thought about any other ways to like either be like easily recognizable? I mean, you got the flow, you got the lettuce going. Is there anything else you've thought about? Like I feel like one thing with Tyson is you always see his mullet and he's always rocking a tank top.
Yep.
And he's just like, that's, I mean, like anywhere you walk, like that's Tyson McGuffin. Like, have you
Yep.
thought about that level of like making yourself recognizable somehow at any tournament you're at?
I need to do more research into what Tyson does because, I mean, I need to do whatever he does and I need his strategy in order to build a brand. But I really like the hair. I really like the name. I'd prefer to have. I need to make a logo, but I mean that's kind of off topic.
No,
But
it's on
other than
topic.
that,
It's great. Yeah.
I think my play style is what stands out the most. I think that I really try to milk and take advantage of the fact that I'm ambidextrous. And so I think that I want people to hear Junior Mint and think like, oh, really cool game, not just like, oh, Matt Wright, or something like
Hmm.
that. So I want people to think of like, he's not flashy, but he wants to get the crowd engaged. He's looking to spice the game up a little bit. He uses both hands, which is super cool. Like, I want not like a wow factor, but when people watch to kind of just get into their mind like, ooh, like shiny.
That's awesome. Dude, you should totally do a piece of content just with your buddies when you're playing for fun. You should use two paddles and you should show people how good you'd be if you had two paddles at once.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be fun.
I think I have that in my notes as a content idea.
Oh, sweet. I'm glad we're on the same page. All right, so we'll wrap things up. I have a couple of fun ones. Who are your favorite pro players right now? Either from like a fun, like I like that personality and I've met them. That could be one idea, but or from a playing standpoint, like you just love how they play.
This isn't an unpopular opinion, but I think it's overlooked. I think that Deckel is easily a top four player, and I just don't think he's found the partners for it. And I really like his game. He has all of the tools. He's solid, and I really, other than the Johns brothers, obviously, because the Johns brothers are like peak pickleball. Like they will outsmart you, outplay you. They'll make you look dumb on the court. They'll make you just miss balls that you typically wouldn't miss. But other than that, obviously, I think that Deckel is really, really solid. I mean, he just needs to find the right partners. And if there's somebody that I'm looking for to make a run for medals, it's Deckel if he finds the right partner.
Who would you choose for him? Because I saw him in Callan play, and I'm a personal like big Callan Dawson fan, and I get it. Like duos matter. Like maybe there's just some more. Maybe there's somebody out there that he could blend better with. But who do you think? Who would you pair him with?
I've thought about this so long, and it's like, okay, so you have the Johnson twins, so both of them are out. You have Matt and Riley, which rumors that they're splitting after this year, but we'll just say Matt and
Wow.
Riley. If
Okay.
if Deckel and Riley played, I think they would give the Johnsons brothers a run for the money. But so you have Matt and Riley, the Johnson brothers, Frazier and J Dub.
Hmm.
So it's like the top, at least those three teams. Even if you grab any partner from for Deckel, they're he can't really do much. Say like this obviously isn't a diss, but say like Callan or something like that. It's like there's just a little difference in terms of level between those players and that player, where it's
Yep.
very tough. Him and AJ could do well, but AJ's very streaky. AJ, if he's on his best day, he could play like a top five player. On his worst day, like what he did with Long in PPA Atlanta, he could play like a top 20, top 30 player. So Deckel could play with AJ, but I mean, it's a roller coaster. So it would be very tough.
All right, Dekel. When you watch this, let us know who you want to play with. We'll get you on the pod.
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, he's a good player, and like when I saw him, he's a big dude, and I think he's hitting the biggest serve on tour that I saw. I mean, the guy
Mm-hmm.
rips it. He
Yep.
misses like 20% of them, but he hits it really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, so you're an APP next gen. I've been asking this to all my guests. Who's the player? Maybe it's two. Who are the players in the come up that we got to be looking for?
I mean, I don't know if you heard of Roscoe Bellamy,
I think so. But refresh me. What's his story?
UCLA grad, just basically quit tennis to become a pickleball player full time, and I think he'll be really good in singles. I mean, he made his debut, I think, at Cincinnati and absolutely wiped the floor with some of these guys that were some pretty good names, and then took a game off, I think it was Hunter, but then lost. I think he'll be really good at singles. He's tall, just like Deca with a heavy serve. Really athletic, long, skinny, so he's quick. But I think he'll be good in singles, and he'll be a menace in singles. In dubs, it's very tough for tall people to use their length consistently or to learn to use their length consistently. Say like Sam Querrey, you know,
Yeah.
like it took him a very long time to figure out that he can reach 4 feet into the kitchen, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
he's halfway there. I get it.
yeah,
That's funny.
but I mean, I think Tardio is a solid player, especially after watching him this weekend. I think if you put him with a mid-level pro, he can do pretty well and do some damage. He's just super quick. He was doing shots where it's like they're dumb shots, but they're working just because it comes out of nowhere. Like I mean, he birded some shots where it was like, what? Like what are you doing? But I mean, it worked, and so. I think he can certainly make another breakout run. I have complete faith in Tardio to do some damage. But I mean, once you go to those higher levels, it's very tough to get away with dumb shots. It's almost impossible because I mean they're a wall and they're a smart wall, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're gonna make you pay for it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, man. So listen, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been fun and taking the time to speak with me. But give whatever shout outs you want. Where can people find you? What do they need to know about you? Any sponsors, links, whatever.
No,
What's up?
no sponsors just yet, but hopefully after New York, a couple. But I mean, I think other
Check
than
out on
that,
Instagram. Are you on
yeah,
YouTube,
yeah.
TikTok? What's the spot?
TikTok and Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram at the real or the Jack Munro. I don't even know my handle, but at the Jack Munro. And same with TikTok as well, the Jack Munro. I just changed. I'm trying to. I originally created a pickleball account separate from like my personal account that I used in high school, but then my pickleball account grew to more than my personal account, and so now I'm thinking just following everyone on my personal account and then taking the photos on my personal account and then uploading them or just posting them on my pickleball account. So my pickleball account turns into my brand, my personal brand, and then just
Mhm.
deleting my old account.
Okay,
Changed it.
got it. Got it. So there's the personal one that we're not even going to talk about.
Yeah,
Follow
yeah,
the Jack Monroe. Okay,
yeah.
great. Anyway, best of luck this weekend, and then good luck at the Texas Open too. So I'll be watching whatever content I can online. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Thank you. No, I appreciate this.